Hi, Miklos. I figured I'd make you a video and just touch base. I wanted to let you know that the amount of medical endangerment tied to Hay House and James on Prague and the various quacks and so-called psychics and mediums is far greater than I had ever expected. It is my belief that they will continue to massively funnel feed harm as the approach that skeptics are taking to debunk mediumship and to call out the various loons that are there does not take into account any kind of social structure to call these individuals to call each other to accountability. When I remember your video that was really good debunking James on Prague, pretending to talk to your father and your other family members. And I remember how in your video you use the skeptic atheist approach of hot, cold, and warm reading. And I'd like to pitch to you some ideas. One of the ideas I'd like to pitch to you is that I think that the utilization of hot, cold, and warm reading is one of the problems that I would possibly evaluate as a problem of how skeptics are evaluating mediums in such a way that it works to the advantage of the medium and it does not call New Age consumers to be mindful of whatever they may be following. It becomes a battle between belief in God or not belief in God, belief in an afterlife or not. And some of the biggest names in skepticism are predominantly militant atheists. And I believe that this has adversely affected the potential work that skeptics could have in terms of effectiveness in calling out some of the harm tied to mediumship, psychics, and some of these New Age quacks. I believe that the clear bias and the way in which militant atheist skeptics have utilized trying to call out psychics and mediums in order to further their atheist view has been so biased that when consumers or in the public or New Age consumers watch these videos, you can't really reach them in a way that will be effective in terms of encouraging them to think about whatever is going on around them, even if they choose to continue to participate in the New Age. Most of us who are skeptical at all would assume that we're somewhat rational. And part of being rational in approach is trying to figure out if what one is doing is effective. And if the method of approach is ineffective, a logical person would evaluate how they might change their approach to better reach the target audience with information. It is my belief that the hostility, the judgmentalness, and the negativity of militant atheist skeptics, who are the dominant voice of skepticism when they have gone on shows and when they have done videos online, has put off people in the public from listening to aspects that they might have to say. When you have individuals who mock people for belief at all with contempt and disdain, believers aren't going to listen. And I think that you would agree. If I were claiming that I was going to do outreach to the African American community, and yet my social media and my lectures and my approach was dripping in disdain for members of the African American community, and it came with an incredible amount of condescension and a lack of appreciation or understanding of their culture, you can imagine my effectiveness in reaching them, even if I had concrete evidence that might benefit them, wouldn't be really high. Because people generally don't want to listen to someone who has complete contempt for them, or who's only there to make them feel bad, or to make themselves feel better. I don't say this in terms of criticism of skepticism or the skepticism movement to be cruel or to be mean. It is my firm belief that there is an incredible amount of work that needs to be done in the skeptic community, and that there is an incredible amount of danger. And the amount of danger is growing astronomically as the CEO of Hay House becomes more and more inclined to megalode quacks to Hay House Publishing. They have Christine Northrup. They put up, they got Chopra. They have signed on Dr. Mercola, and they may be looking at Kelly Brogan. They've already at one point had Christine Northrup promote Kelly Brogan, and Kelly Brogan promotes very dangerous stuff in terms of the things she says about encouraging people away from their psychiatric medications, encouraging people to give birth at home without a doctor, encouraging people to reject vital vaccines that could protect a child or an adult's life, or even a pregnant woman. She has highly discouraged people from getting flu shots while pregnant. Mercola's page is loaded with so much crazy crap. He is a full-blown conspiracy theorist. He totally rejects a lot of the stuff that the CDC is saying tied to vaccines, illness, Zika virus. When you combine Hay House psychics, spiritual authors, and mediums telling people that magical thoughts prevent and cure illness, and then you put on a few quacky doctors who seemingly have no ethics, who won't call what's going on out. The medical doctors being affiliated with Hay House will give the illusion that this must be safe and must be okay to New Age consumers. They will assume that a medical doctor would not violate their medical oath to promote events or to lead them to a page where there would be clear medical misinformation. I know when I was in the New Age, I assumed to some degree that because Deepak Chopra was tied to some of this stuff, that it must be safe. And that is a very bad assumption, because Deepak Chopra does not take responsibility for whom and what he promotes. And that's where I'm going to go a little bit later in this video. But I want to go back to hot, cold, and warm reading. It is my belief that utilizing evaluative approaches based predominantly on atheism has been a substantial disadvantage to skeptics in being able to reach the public, and being able, to a very large degree, inoculating them from to some degree of just blindly following anything. It is my belief that skeptics must start in their communication about psychics or mediums. They absolutely must start communicating to consumers that if you see people who are either the presenter or the people that they promote giving out or leaving out wrong medical information or dangerous psychological or psychiatric information, that should be a warning bell. But skeptics aren't talking about that. I used to believe in the New Age to some degree. It took them risking life, refusing to fix their statements, and continuing to promote individuals who were I watched Doreen Virtue give out wrong suicide information, while medium John Holland didn't stop it. And while James von Prague had promoted this woman, James von Prague continued to promote Doreen Virtue to the public, knowing she was giving out wrong suicide and anti-vaccine information, and knowing that she had plugged a book that contained misleading and false information on how to treat chronic and acute pain. Telling people that utilizing an angel approach, that no more must they suffer chronic or acute pain, is absolutely sick and abusive to do to people. And there's no way that James von Prague didn't know that was wrong. But he never thought that anyone would ever look at who and what he's promoting. He assumes that skeptics, all they'll do is look at his live readings on television, and if he makes a mistake, they'll call him out on that. He does not assume that you will evaluate what and whom he promotes. And so that's where he is his most dangerous. James von Prague and people like him are the most dangerous when they will endorse and promote individuals who give out wrong medical information. Yes, the taking advantage of the grieving is one thing, but when they take it to the level that they will promote individuals who tell people to reject life-saving pharmaceuticals and life-saving vaccines, and they will risk the lives of babies and babies in the womb, that's a whole new level. But when skeptics communicate about mediumship and when they communicate about psychic phenomenon, they do not communicate the massive amount of danger that is associated with these people now when they're promoting things that are not medically sound and when they take no responsibility for what they do. And when they will promote, the fact that I can catch a whole bunch of them giving out wrong medical information, and I bring it to the other one's attention, and they block me, and they continue to profit that person and promote that person and lead their fans to Hay House where that person will be plugged as an expert. That's not just being a grief vampire, Miklos. That's significant devaluation of human life. And that absolutely has got to be at the forefront of skeptic communication. That when daytime television shows, entertainment shows, Fox News, Oprah, when any of these people plug these psychics, mediums, or alternative health people, they have an absolute moral obligation to research them and to see who they're promoting and what they teach. There's not a lot of people out there who know that Deepak Chopra has promoted a rape apologist who tells people that every person who is molested or raped causes their own molestation or rape. There's not a lot of people out there who know that Deepak Chopra has, as a medical doctor, has promoted a woman who claims to be, a channel or a psychic. A woman, Esther Hicks, who tells people all of medicine is a dog and pony show, one thing working as well as another. A woman who has encouraged one of her followers to mislead their spouse about whether they're taking their prescribed medication, and the person stopped taking their medication because she's following Esther Hicks' teaching that you can cure yourself of any illness with the power of thought. That is absolutely lethal and dangerous. And yet the skeptic community, by being dominated by atheists who don't take the time or don't want to spend the resources to go to their events or actually read their materials, have no idea of how much danger is in the twine of what is being promoted. When Deepak Chopra wants free press, all he has to do is attack Richard Dawkins in the press. And all these religious organizations, these little news things, they always paint him as some sort of hero of belief. There is nothing about a hero symbol or an advocate of belief about a medical doctor who will violate his medical oath to promote those who risk human life and who will promote those who victim blame every single victim. But skeptics don't talk about the weave. The harm in the weave. The harm in the weave is the number one biggest marker that skeptics have, and it has nothing to do with belief in God or not. It's about whether or not you value your fellow human beings or not. If you do, you have a moral obligation to address that which harms and risks them. If you make one excuse for doing what is wrong and risking human life for personal profit, that is the number one marker that we should be able to put before society and say no. Don't tell us that person's talking to heaven when they care so little about whether or not their fans' children die, the elderly die, the mentally ill become risked to further illness or digression of their condition. But the concept, in order, it's about moving from an atheist focus to humanism, where we talk about the value of our fellow human being. Skeptics have an incredible treasure trove of wrong stuff that is tied to almost all of the major psychics and mediums, considering how much they twine to each other and how many of them are tied to the fraud and the medical endangerment of Hay House Publishing. I have found so much information online, but in order to find it, it took hours and hours of Google searches and trying to come up with the correct term. The material is not on any website that shows us a psychic and the individuals they promote and harm and endangerment tied to them. That type of material properly presented to the public in a manner that someone with a 9th grade education or a member of the media in 10 minutes could look at and go, oh my God, this stuff isn't just a matter of entertainment. That type of presentation of information in terms of the harm and the weave can make all the difference. I mean, what are they going to say if, what's Fox News going to say in terms of saying that they value their consumers' lives, and many of their consumers of Fox News are pro-life? How can they claim that they're honoring their consumers while they promote individuals who risk human life? It's an excellent opportunity for skeptics, if they present the material and show the harm and the weave, to show how these individuals are not just entertainment. The excuse constantly used by members of the media and other individuals who are entertainment channels or other things is that, well, it comforts the grieving and it's a matter of belief and it's just entertainment. It's not entertainment when someone's risking human life. It's not entertainment to risk someone's child's life. Now, I want to go back to hot, cold, and warm reading, Miklos. When you look at hot, cold, and warm reading, and a New Age consumer or believer sees that evaluative technique, they can tell that the technique, the manner of putting everything that is seen into one of those categories has a significant degree of intellectual dishonesty. Trying to force something that may not be properly one of those categories into one of those categories is intellectually dishonest. Each of those categories is cheating hot, cold, and warm reading. Cheating hot, cheating cold, cheating warm. And there is a very big problem within that evaluative technique. It totally discounts the possibility of natural intuition at all. The concept of someone being able to intuitively pick something up is very different than the claim that these mediums make that they are hearing heaven itself. Many people experience the phenomenon of having intuition. Some individuals have marked intuition. When such an individual sees hot, cold, and warm reading, and they watch an evaluator go through and put certain types of statements and categories that may not be appropriate, that there's no evidence to say, yes, that is concretely that, and yet you're claiming it's an evidence-based approach, the bias is going to really stand out. Individuals who believe in intuition, hearing skeptics say there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a soul. There's no such thing as paranormal or psychic phenomenon or an afterlife. As soon as they hear those words and these things, they're going to be aware that the bias is substantial. And if they have had any experience at all from their own perception, they're going to discount you because you don't even know that. But my belief, very firmly, Miklos, as a Roman Catholic who I believe in God and afterlife and soul. I have had a near-death experience myself. My belief is that no matter whether we perceive that we are seeing something tied to the paranormal or not, we should be holding on to our moral compasses and our sense of logic. If someone is able to tell you something that they could not know except by a paranormal explanation possibly, and yet we can catch them in any other way, literally risking human life, we can discount that they're talking to heaven. And they will have demonstrated that they are a dangerous individual who cannot be trusted. I believe that the categories that skeptics use of hot, cold, and warm are legitimate categories, but you need to have other categorizations, and trying to shove what you perceive into a category that may not be accurate is dishonest, like I said. And being intellectually dishonest is not a way to reach your target audience. It does seem like a lot of times when I look at the way people use hot, cold, and warm reading and talk about different fallacies, it becomes the experience of someone giving that type of evaluation becomes more of an intellectual virtue signaling to atheists and agnostic skeptics than an attempt to actually reach believers. It's important to reach the target audience, not just impress your fellow skeptics. And I think sometimes people get lost in that. And that is a very big disadvantage. There is an enormous treasure trove of work that already exists, Miklos, in terms of the various medical people and quacks and things that skeptics have already written on, tied to these various mediums, psychics, and quacks at Hay House. Putting them together in a diagram that's easy to understand, that you could pop up on your computer, that shows you how each of these people seem to sell out their personal integrity to promote what they shouldn't, and that they don't seem to have a regard for the value of human life, is critical. Miklos, I do not believe that any of these people talk to heaven. Recently, this last week, I found out that the head of the Edgar Cayce Foundation has decided to risk human life by promoting medium John Holland at an event that they're both going to be doing. And by this, the head of the Edgar Cayce Foundation will be given credence and a seal of approval to medium John Holland, though the head of the Edgar Cayce Foundation, when I talked to him years ago, is fully aware that medium John Holland has risked human life for personal profit at Hay House in ways that are absolutely unethical, and he has promoted and led his fans to things that medically endanger them. You said in your evaluation of medium James von Prague, if you can discount the best, if you can debunk the best, you can discount the rest. When I can see, I'm a little bit familiar, I'm not anywhere an expert on Edgar Cayce, but I assure you, Miklos, that there is a vast amount of readings and statements from Edgar Cayce which stand in complete opposition to the game and the hustle and the harm that is going on at Hay House. But the head of the Edgar Cayce Foundation must not seem to actually believe the work of Edgar Cayce. He doesn't think that he has an obligation, it seems, to walk in truth and integrity and honor in terms of what he gives credence to in the public. Now, I'm not an atheist, and I am not an agnostic. I believe absolutely in God. But Miklos, I have met so many wonderful atheists and agnostics since I started having any connection with the skeptic community. And I would actually say all of the individuals that I have met tied to the skeptic community would not for personal profit promote or sign deals to promote or to profit individuals who risk human life, even though these individuals are atheists. It is my belief that coming to the heart of humanism and questioning why we continually find Deepak Chopra tied to wrong things. How does Deepak Chopra stand in the public forum and rip into Donald Trump and claim that he's so inferior, while Deepak Chopra, as a medical doctor, sells out his ethics to promote and profit people who risk human life? Those are the type of questions that will get people's attention across the board. So it is my belief that it is vital, Miklos, that someone, I'm just throwing the idea out to you because I know you have computer skills and you have friends that do computers. If there was any way that someone with computer skills or an online site could demonstrate how one person funnels and promotes another person, and how these mediums who claim to hear heaven, even if they themselves do not make the wrong medical statements, they funnel to and they lead their trusting fans to those individuals who will give out wrong medical information. And they make that trade on life for hay house deals, for money and fame. So I'm sorry it's a bit long. I just figured I would do this. Sorry about the background noise. I'm at the University of Washington Law School.